And so now I'd like to invite Peter McCue to come up to talk a bit about PCAL. Peter's the Executive Officer of the Premier's Council for Active Living, as I think most of you probably know. And he's going to talk a little bit about PCAL as an example of intergovernment, intersectoral collaboration. PCAL was actually the first Australian example of this sort of high-level interagency, and it's sort of still going, and that's sort of a testimony to, I think, to Peter's skills, actually. Peter's been involved for over 20 years promoting physical activity in Europe and Asia and Australia, and I gather he's now going to add promoting nutrition as part of his repertoire. So over to you, Peter.
Thanks, Chris, for the intro, and thanks everyone for hanging in there for the morning session. It's great to see so many familiar faces across so many different agencies, and it's great to see such a broad cross-section of representation as well. I just thought I'd give a bit of an overview of PCAL's work. And Norma, thanks for the PCAL extension. I thought that gave it a particular Australian type of approach to how it's pronounced. Karen, you've probably heard that Australia's taken over the States as the biggest houses in the world. So we've got a supersized world that we live in here in Australia, where we've got the not only the biggest houses, but also some of the biggest apartments as well. And we're very much a sprawled city. And I was just thinking, as I was listening to Norma and Matt and Corinne and the examples that we've heard quite nicely about the Northwest. This is the same map of the Northwest, and it's showing what's going on now. And clearly the work of the two Matts is trying to address that car-dominated work or car-dominated situation we've got. Essentially what it's showing there is there are thousands of kilometres travelled by car annually, and so that the red is up to 40,000 kilometres travelled annually versus the blue being 2,000 to 5,000 kilometres. So clearly there's a lot more car travelling going on out in the West, and it's great to hear what the two Matts are doing to try to address that in terms of an active living perspective. Oops, wrong one. So that clearly then has an impact on physical activity, and those in the audience who aren't aren't coming from health background, all we're trying to achieve from a physical activity guidelines perspective is 30 minutes of movement a day, and unfortunately half of this audience isn't achieving that. And if you think of it, stop and reflect for a moment, 30 minutes is not much movement, and it has significant health benefits in terms of halving cardiovascular disease and a number of other health measures. So clearly there's value in a Premier's Council to try to not only promote physical activity but healthy eating now too, Norma, PCAL. So it was great to see that the Premier obviously expanded PCAL's terms of reference to not only include active living but also healthy eating. And through what I thought I could just quickly show is some of the work that we were doing around active travel and healthy planning, and then just what we're intending to do from a nutrition perspective. In terms of representation now, with that expanded focus, the membership of PCAL has expanded so that we've got industry represented by Coles and Woolworths. We've got a number of NGOs and peak bodies included now, and also ministerial representation. So clearly it's demonstrating that focus of expansion into food. And still the intent is to address, in terms of what we have been doing, those siloed approaches and bring it back into obviously a platform where we get that collaboration. From what Matt was showing us in terms of what's happening out in the Northwest and Corinne's comments about walking, what this graph is showing there is that some of the background in terms of informing the development of the walking plan, in that we've got more than 500,000 less than 1 kilometre car trips going on in the Sydney metro area every work day. So that's a lot of trips that could be converted to walking trips, and that's clearly a target where we can create some change. And create some change not only from a transport perspective, but obviously from an environmental perspective and also from a health perspective. And this is just a pie graph representing that summary that Corinne had presented on the New South Wales cost benefits, or the benefits for walking. What it's clearly showing there though is how significantly health contributes to those benefits, so that more than half of those benefits that have been estimated are health benefits from getting people out of their cars and getting them walking. And so that's just the numbers that Corinne showed us before. And so that type of information we prepare helps inform the development of New South Wales 21, New South Wales 2021, and both Norma and Matt have highlighted how we've got walking strategy, a walking target in there now and a cycling target as well. What PCAL's role is now in terms of the development of, not so much the development of the walking strategy, but helping the implementation. And it's worth noting that a number of different agencies are interested in this. And from an environmental perspective, the Office for Environment and Heritage has a number of different brochures that they promote in terms of Travel Smart, and you'll be really pleased to note there, Karen, that they've got a stair walking one as well. And so a lot of this work often happens independently. The agencies aren't aware of what's going on, and clearly we can benefit from some greater collaboration in terms of trying to promote that stair walking from a health perspective as well. I thought I'd also highlight, it's just too good an example. It doesn't necessarily just have to be stairs, and although this is in Munich, at the University of Munich there, beautiful internal stairs to go up, Karen, but beautiful slippery dips to come back down. And it's, what a great example of how you can creatively use design as well and make it a pretty attractive feature. From a healthy planning perspective, we've also developed guidelines, not so much from the broad principles, but how they apply within an urban context. So within New South Wales, we've got New South Wales specific development and active living guidelines, and there's a number of health specific guidelines as well. We've got one of the authors of those in the room. So these guidelines have been available for several years now. And what we've done is developed a developers checklist in working with the development industry that complements the guidelines, so that the intention is that we have an overarching state government policy promoting active living. We've then got the resource for local council planners, then we've got the resource for developers, and then at the local council level, we've got the integrated planning and reporting framework where we can apply this right across the state. And one of the pieces of work that we've been asked to address from a nutrition perspective is the expansion of the IP&R resource from an active living perspective into nutrition as well. So there's a number of different resources that exist to help implement this work, and they're all available on the PCAL site, and you've got some of those in your folder if you want to pursue those further. And then finally, from a healthy eating perspective, you can see there that we've been asked, a key thing, a key piece of work that we've been asked to focus on in this first 6 months is with the release of the forthcoming national nutrition guidelines, to develop some key nutrition messages to go with those guidelines. I mentioned the IP&R work that the Minister also mentioned this morning, and also the work moving into kilojoule labelling, which we'll talk about in a little moment as well. So that's a very quick summary of the work of PCAL. More focusing, obviously, from an active living and a healthy design perspective of the work that we've done, and obviously we're moving into the healthy eating stage. If you want any more information on that, there's the website, and come and join us in the fast lane.